The nightcap on Monday night on Christmas Day, Ravens and 49ers. Potential Super Bowl preview. Both teams 11-3. San Francisco, a 5.5-point favorite. The total is 46.5. Now, do you want me to throw some stats at you, some betting nuggets in this game? Lamar Jackson, in his career, is 19-1 straight up against the NFC. He's only lost one time to them. He's won 19 of 20 games. He is also 11-2 against the spread as an underdog. Overall, the Ravens as a team are 19-4 against the spread in their last 23 games as an underdog dating back to 2018. We're getting Lamar against an NFC team. We're getting the Ravens as an underdog. And oh, by the way, Kate, on Monday Night Football, the last 7 Monday night games, the underdog has won outright all 7 weeks. We saw it yesterday with Seattle. We saw it in the doubleheader with the Giants and the Titans. The last 7 games on Monday night, the underdog has won outright. I'm thinking number 8 is going to make it 8 straight on Monday night, Kate. The Ravens are going into San Francisco. It's going to be a really good game. I'm worried about the Keaton Mitchell injury for the Ravens. I think that's a really big deal. His change of pace with him and Gus Edwards, kind of that speed power was so big. Having him on the field with Lamar was big as well. It's going to be tough. The Ravens' run defense as of late hasn't been great, and I'm worried about McCaffrey and Debo, and the way that they can run the ball. But the Ravens are just so good on the road. This season, they have been leading for 90% of the games in which they've played. They hardly are ever trailing. And, over the years, they play San Francisco really well. On Thanksgiving, we had the Harbaugh Bowl. They won that one. These teams were 2 of the best teams in the league when they played 4 years ago. It was pouring down rain in Baltimore. They won that. They obviously beat them in the Super Bowl back in 2012. So the Ravens usually play the Niners well. Lamar doesn't lose to the NFC, and they're great as underdogs. Give me the Ravens plus 5.5, and I'll sprinkle some money line as well.
PJ, I am right there with you with all of this.
Nice.
I am buying the Ravens in this one. I like them plus 5.5. I think a sprinkle on the money line is worth it based on all the stats you just rattled off. But I certainly think 5.5 is way too many points to be giving Lamar Jackson. And I mean, for as good as the 49ers have been this season, their run defense is 19th in the league in terms of yards per carry allowed. And yes, the Keaton Mitchell injury kind of negates that a little bit. But I mean, the weaknesses of the few weaknesses of the 49ers defense is kind of plays into the strengths of the Ravens. And Lamar Jackson being a mobile quarterback and being able to use his legs and move the ball that way. I mean, the 49ers have kind of struggled against those mobile quarterbacks lately. I mean, 49 yards to Kyler Murray on the ground last week. I don't know. I just think that 5.5 points, I was shocked when that line came out to see that. That just seems like way, way too many. I mean, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, some of those linebackers for Baltimore will be able to be physical with Christian McCaffrey, with George Kittle, some of those bigger players. So, yeah, I'm with you, PJ. I think the 5.5 is the way to go with Baltimore and wouldn't be shocked if they won that one outright.
Do you think the winner of this game, whichever quarterback wins, is going to win MVP? Do you think if the Niners win, Purdy wins? And do you think if Lamar and the Ravens win, then Lamar wins MVP?
Yes and no. I mean, if Lamar wins this game and then loses to the Dolphins next week, I don't think he's winning an MVP. But if he wins out, then yeah, I could easily make a case for Lamar Jackson to win MVP. I don't know, the Purdy backers, like, I could get on board with Purdy too. He's been fantastic this season. The numbers he's putting up, I mean, people kind of knock him for having so many weapons around him and being in Kyle Shanahan's offense. But, like, can you really knock a player for that? He's still winning games for his team. But I think if the Ravens win out, Lamar Jackson is the likely MVP, or at least my MVP for this season. What do you think?
I think if the Niners win on Monday night, Brock Purdy's the MVP. And I don't even see what the argument really for anybody else is, except maybe his own teammate in McCaffrey, if Christian goes crazy in that game and goes crazy to end the year. But Kate, like, the other guys in contention for MVP are Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts and obviously Lamar. Like if Brock beats all three of them head to head, I don't see how you don't give it to him, right? Certainly Josh Allen, if the Bills win out and he wins the AFC East, he might be in the discussion. Josh Allen, before this Cowboys game, had a streak where he had an interception in 9 straight games.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you give him the MVP. Obviously, people are talking about Lamar's numbers, and, it's nowhere near what his numbers were when he won MVP back in 2019. It's nowhere near the numbers of Brock Purdy's or what some MVPs have won in the past. I thought Chris Collinsworth, though, made an excellent point during the Ravens-Jags game on the broadcast where he was talking about there's so many things that Lamar does, that you can't quantify on a box sheet, right? Like the Jags couldn't bring him down. His elusiveness, the plays that he makes, that's the reason why, to me, he's the most valuable player if they end up winning this game. And I think something that needs to take into account is obviously the injuries that the Ravens have suffered on offense, right? Keaton's now out. Dobbins was out week 1. Mark Andrews, his favorite target, is out. Like, look at what Brock Purdy and the Niners were in the middle of the season when they lost 3 in a row, when guys got banged up, when Debo was out a couple games, when Trent Williams was out. When things weren't all fine and great for the Niners and they were dealing with injuries, they couldn't overcome that. They were losing games. It's when they're healthy and they're fully loaded, that's when they win games. That's when Purdy's at his best. So Lamar has clearly shown us that he can do more with less. He can handle adversity much better than Brock Purdy. But with all that being said, I think, Kate, if they win this game and Purdy beats Lamar, Dak, and Jalen Hurts head to head, I think he's going to win MVP.
Yeah, I think you can throw Jalen Hurts out of the mix completely. I almost think you can throw Dak out of the mix completely too. Like, to me, this is just a 2-man race, and whoever wins this weekend likely wins it.
It's actually my favorite game of the entire week. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this game.
You start us off, DJ. I want to hear what you're thinking.
Kate, I'm all over the Jags in this game. I love them. This is my bread and butter. Like, this is just how I bet NFL. This is just the way I'm wired with buy low and sell high spots. Like, this is a sell high on Tampa. This is a buy low on the Jags. The Jags have lost 3 straight. The Bucs have won 2 straight games on the road against the Packers and that great win against Atlanta. If this game was played 3 weeks ago, Kate, Jacksonville's favored by 3.5, 4 points in this game. But now they're actually small dogs. They're minus 105, and Tampa is minus 115. I think Jacksonville is the better team. I think this is one of those games where we say to ourselves, it's a pick 'em. Tampa looks like the better team. They're playing better. But this could be one of those Baker Mayfield games where we're saying, why did I bet on the Bucs and Baker Mayfield in a spot like this? So Jags have the better head coach in Peterson. They have the better quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, and they're just a better road team. I mean, 4 of their 6 losses this year have come at home. They play much better on the road. And, I know they've lost their last few games, but going up against the Ravens, they've gone up against the Browns when Lawrence was coming off of that high ankle sprain. Like, obviously that Bengals loss was a real tough one, but look at the way that they're playing now with Jake Browning. That loss all of a sudden doesn't look as bad. They just ran into the AFC North. Like, that's all it was. Now they get out of the AFC North. They play the worst division in football in the NFC South, and I think that's going to benefit them. So I like the Jags this week. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think they find a way to pull it out. My favorite bet of the week, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Now that I look at their schedule, Carolina next week, they're not losing that game. They're not gonna. Things aren't gonna blow up down the stretch. What a week to fade Baker Mayfield. He's coming off of a perfect passer rating against Green Bay. Now he's back at home, nice and comfy spot. Well, maybe not so much. This is also like the Jaguars, where they have struggled, is against the really good teams in the league, which, I mean, can you really fault them? Lost to Kansas City, San Francisco, Baltimore. Those are all home games too. So they beat up on the lesser opponents this season, and they do really well away from home, like you said. So this is kind of a good spot to back the Jags now that we're diving a little bit deeper into it. I mean, forget +1, just take them on the money line, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I think they win the game. I'm with you. Philadelphia really needs a win, Kate. They've dropped 3 in a row. They opened up the season 10-1. Everything was looking great. They were home dogs against San Francisco, and we're like, what is going on? Then they get blown out in that game. They get blown out against Dallas, and then they lose that heartbreaker last night to Seattle. So they've lost 3 in a row. They're 10-4. They're in a battle with Dallas to see who wins the NFC East. They're at home against the Giants. This line's gone from 10.5 to 11.5. I would probably take the Giants in this game plus the points. Man, that Dallas schedule has been, or that Eagles schedule, has been so tough. You play Dallas at home bye week, out of the bye week, Super Bowl revenge game against Kansas City. Then you get Buffalo. Then you get the Niners revenge game at home. Dallas wants revenge against you. Then Seattle's seasons is on the line. They've been taking everybody's best punch, been playing tough team after tough team. We talked about this earlier with the Bills and the Chargers, and maybe there's a little bit of a Bills letdown. Like maybe there's a little bit of an Eagles letdown in this game. You look at the 2 divisional games that they've played at home this season. They played Washington. They were able to squeak out that game in overtime, 34-31. They beat Dallas at home, 28-23. That was a close game as well. So I think the Giants can hang around. I think maybe, we're not hearing nearly as much about Tommy DeVito this week. I think maybe people think that's kind of turning into the Josh Dobbs story. It was fun for a couple weeks. Now we're back to reality. But Dable's a really good coach. I think they're going to have a good game plan. We talked about earlier, Jalen just doesn't look healthy. Eagles defense isn't playing very well. I don't think New York wins the game, but I think they can hang within this number. So I'll take the Giants plus 11.5.
I was going to take the Eagles and lay the big number. And I still think I might have to do that, PJ. But you make a good argument that kind of makes me want to rethink that. I mean, the Eagles are not the same team that we saw earlier in the season or that last season. Like their defense has been a huge issue this year. And if that doesn't turn around at all, the Eagles are not going to make it back to the Super Bowl or anywhere even close. I just feel like this spot, you've made it through the tough part of your schedule, playing Dallas, playing San Francisco, all of those teams. And now you're back at home. And Jalen Hurts just kind of called out his entire team, saying they're not committed. Like that to me is a big, everyone kind of refocus and get back to playing good football. I just feel like this is a good spot for them back at home after that tough stretch where the Tommy DeVito stuff was cute for a little while. I mean, Tommy DeVito's not that great of a football player, right? Like he's really not. He had a couple good games. The story around his agent was fun. Put the Giants kind of in the limelight for a while, but like we saw in Minnesota, like you mentioned, Josh Dobbs, it comes to an end at some point. And I think that's kind of the case for the Giants right now. Dable, yes, he is a very good coach and can keep this game close, but I think Philly needs a massive blowout win in order for them to end the season strong and with a little momentum going into the postseason. Because even though they do have a spot locked up, you still need to have something behind you as you're getting close to these playoff games. And so this would just be a really nice spot for Philly to kind of have just a massive win. I would love to think that they can do it. TBD on if I actually put any money down on them to do it quite yet.